Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure my sound is intact. That's funny. There's that's a different story. Let's see. That's coming up tomorrow. Lee Carter is going to be here. Lee Carter is from Democratic Socialists of America. He won the seat in Fairfax in the Virginia legislature. He's going to be here tomorrow discussing Democratic Socialists of America, their plans, his plans, and politics of Virginia in general. I don't know a huge amount about Virginia politics, so this should be illuminating. But I also want to talk about federal politics with the standpoint of some of the plans that Democratic Socialists of America are planning. So that should be a really good conversation. That's going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern. What I want to talk about today, let's take a look at this. Do you remember this person? I know you guys remember who this person is. Yeah, I'll suck it all in. Get it in, inhale it into your pores. Inhale it into your pores. I have to be honest, if I never saw this woman again, it would be too soon. And yet, she's coming up because we have to discuss something that's taking place right now as we speak. Tim Canova ran against Debra Wasserman Shultz in the 2016 election. Tim Canova lost the election to Debra Wasserman Shultz. But that's where the interesting part starts. And Tim Canova didn't necessarily just trust the results. He didn't trust it. There were people who came to his campaign saying, you are being cheated, and here's evidence showing that you are being cheated. So Tim Canova, like anybody else who cares and who wants to actually win and represent the interests of their constituents, both of those things are not out of alignment with one another. In fact is, if people are giving you money, if people are giving you support, the least that you can do is make sure that you do everything humanly possible, legal, to win. Mind you, don't fuck over the country, but you know what I mean. You're representing the interests of your constituents. And part of the reason they're giving you support is because they want you in that office. You have a responsibility to those people to do what you need to do to make sure you get elected. And if you're being cheated, you have a responsibility to call that cheating out. Tim Canova is calling the cheating out. Tim Canova requested to see the ballots. It's well within his right to do so. He wants to see the ballots. I don't trust you. I don't believe what you're saying. Prove to me that the results of this election are what you say the results of this election are. Tim Canova was around during the Sanders campaign. He had eyes. He could see Sanders being cheated. He could see 200,000 people thrown off the rolls in Brooklyn. He could see the long lines in Arizona. He could see them messing around with the voting systems themselves, like the oddities in the vote totals. The vote totals that for whatever reason never lined up with the exit polls. Or at the very least, it always went in one way, meaning pro-Clinton. This is somewhat weird. I mean, these totals are way off, and it got to the point where in California, they just stopped taking the exit polls. What's the point of taking the exit polls if the exit polls never show what the actual total is? Now, this by itself is somewhat bizarre. A person goes in, they make their vote, they walk out, they tell the person exactly what their vote is, seeing they just voted 20 seconds prior. But for whatever reason, those totals just would not show up in a way that was commensurate with the actual vote total. Now, Tim Canova said, yeah, I'm not just going to take it as an act of faith. I am going to actually expect the vote totals, the ballots. I want to see the ballots. Come to find out, during a lawsuit, they destroyed the ballots. That's not only bizarre, that's illegal. That's illegal. They literally destroyed the ballots. Now, the argument that Broward County, the area where they're running in, the argument they made was, look, we made a digital copy of the ballots. Everybody should be good. The catch is, the digital copy is purely dependent upon whether or not, purely dependent upon you being a completely trustworthy and impartial arbiter in this case. Clearly, you're not trusted in this role. And the reason for the ballots precludes trust, meaning the ballots should be what the ballots are. You taking a photocopy of the ballots is not indicative of the same thing as the ballots. You, for all intents and purposes, have destroyed evidence, while at the same token potentially curbing the evidence to line up with the vote totals. That is something different than a person being able to inspect and validate the ballots for themselves. This is currently in court. Tim Canova has been sending out emails and sending out letters to various people in the Democratic and Republican apparatus throughout Florida to try to get them to do something about this and to call to account what's been taking place, this illegal behavior that's been taking place in Broward County. Now, Canova has wrote a piece in Medium, and just to show a little bit of the piece, I'm going to transition from the Medium piece to the political article because I think the political article explains it a little bit better. But let's take a look at the beginning of this Medium article. Update on the 2016 destroyed ballots, Canova versus Wasserman Shultz. At least he used a good picture for her. He's a better person than I am. I prefer the other picture. I prefer this one. I want to show my disdain by finding bad pictures. All right. So after our 2016 run against Debra Wasserman Shultz and her corrupt political machine, a number of election integrity experts expressed serious concern about the official results. Rather than ignoring their research, I decided to verify the vote by inspecting the ballots under Florida's public records law. All too often, election fraud is swept. That's supposed to be is. Election frauds are swept under the rug, especially when it's established Democrats cheating progressive and grassroots Democrats. We saw this happen in state after state when Bernie Sanders and his campaign were cheated. In New York City alone, more than 200 citizens were purged from the voting rolls in the days prior to the New York 2016 presidential primary. The New York City Board of Elections admitted to all of this, and yet there's been no real punishment for the mass fraud. At this moment, and let's go back a month ago, I don't know if this is still the case, they were having problems with the voter systems, meaning people who were registered Democrats who had voted in the last election no longer could find themselves in the electoral system. I don't know if that problem has been fixed, but fact is, they threw 200,000 people off the rolls in Brooklyn, or 200,000 people off the rolls in New York. That is illegal by federal and state laws, and yet there was no consequence, or at the very least it was a slap on the wrist as a consequence. Nobody was prosecuted, nobody went to jail, there was no investigations. Ultimately, there was a slap on the wrist. Somebody asked the question, well, of course they're having more problems. They never fixed the last issue, meaning there was no one punished for the shenanigans that took place last time. Why would there be any kind of change in this? There was no punishment. Now, that being said, there should have been an investigation. There should have been a clear investigation. You had a situation where they literally got rid of hundreds of thousands of people off the voting rolls. Those people lost their constitutional right to vote. And this is partially due to the benefit of a candidate. There should have been an investigation. Let's keep watching. Let's keep going. I was determined to shine a light on any corruption that may have rigged our own election results against Debra Wasserman Shultz. I felt I owed nothing less to the thousands of supporters who stepped up to make donations and volunteer their time to my campaign. So when Dr. Brenda Snipes, the Broward supervisor election, stonewalled our public records request, I filed the lawsuit last June to enforce our rights. Incredibly, while the lawsuit was pending, the supervisor destroyed all of our paper ballots in violation of federal law. They broke the law to hide the election results. Literally, that's not hyperbole. Let's keep going. Let's go to Politico. Experts, Broward County's election chief broke the law in destroying ballots. The election supervisor in Florida's second most populous county broke the law by destroying ballots cast in last year's congressional primary involving Debra Wasserman Shultz, according to election law experts across the political spectrum. The congresswoman's opponent has sued to get access to the ballots. The case, one of 3 ongoing independent lawsuits plaguing Broward County election supervisor Brenda Snipes' troubled office, stems from a June lawsuit filed in circuit court by Democrat Tim Canova. He had wanted to inspect the optical scan ballots cast in this August 30th primary race against Wasserman Shultz because he had concerns about the integrity of the election office. Under long-standing federal law, ballots cast in congressional races aren't supposed to be destroyed until 22 months after the election. And under state law, a public record sought in a court case is not supposed to be destroyed without a judge's order. Snipes' office, however, destroyed the paper ballots in question in September in the middle of Canova's lawsuit, but says it was lawful because the office made high-quality electric copies. Canova's legal team found out after the fact last month. The documents were not destroyed because they were maintained in an electric format, Snipes' attorney, Norris Weeks told Politico. They have the documents. They did a 2-day inspection of the ballots. BS. BS. Either you have the ballots themselves or you don't have the ballots. Tim Canova is doing this because he doesn't trust you. He thinks there's shenanigans or there's shady dealings going on. The thing that deals with the shady dealings is seeing the ballots themselves. You making a copy and conforming the evidence or comporting the evidence in a way that lines up with the actual results is not the same thing as you saving the ballots. Tim Canova is right. You broke the law. You destroyed federal ballots against state and against federal law. Somebody should be prosecuted for this. Unless you do something about it, this will continue to take place. Canova is right for stepping up on this. But Canova, a Nova Southwestern University law professor, and his attorney said they wanted originals to make sure they weren't tampered with. Digital copies can be altered, they said. And they were right. All right. 7 election law experts interviewed by Politico do not share Snipes' attorney's interpretation of the statute, nor does the Department of Justice Voting Division, which is in charge of enforcing the law. Then enforce the law. Then enforce the law. Do something about it. Like, it's one thing to say that these guys disagree. Fine, you disagree. Do something about it. They fundamentally broke the law. And they broke the law in a way that might have been done so in order to hide election results. Meaning they might have rigged the process and destroyed the ballots so that people couldn't necessarily see that they rigged the process. There should be prosecutions for this. There should be an investigation into this. You should not just sweep this under the rug. I love the fact that Canova is going after this because he should go after this. He's not doing this just for himself. He's doing this for all of these elections, unless there is a consequence, unless somebody puts their stake in the ground and say, look, we're not going to let this pass. We're not going to pretend this didn't take place. No, they're cheating. They're cheating. And in this case, they're cheating. And in this extreme case of just breaking the law, destroyed the evidence with this fig leaf of we made copies. Trust us. We made copies. Trust us. Let's keep on. It's a federal election. There is at least one federal candidate on the ballot. The custodian must keep the ballots for 22 months. Brett Capel, a Washington lawyer and Ackerman LLP, said in an email to Politico. State law may require a shorter time for retention, but federal law would preempt any such state law with regards to ballot cast for federal candidates. Canova is making the point that he's not being silenced by this, that he feels he needs to represent the interests of his constituents by drawing light to this and making this somewhat of a big deal, because it is a big deal. This is a representative government. And in this representative government, if for whatever reason somebody is monkeying around with the process and preventing people of that country from voting, making it difficult for those people to vote, monkeying around, throwing them off the voting rolls, changing the polling locations, whatever they're doing to make it difficult for people to vote, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, that's a problem, and it should be called out. Voting should not be a chore. Voting should not be this thing that's difficult to do where you have to jump through hoops in order to do. And in this case, they literally destroyed the ballots. They literally destroyed the ballots. There should be a consequence for this. And Tim Canova should not have to jump through one hoop after the next to get somebody to say, yes, there should be a consequence for breaking federal and state law. So, good job, Canova. Hopefully you'll win this particular round in 2018 and take her out of that seat. So, gold star to Canova. Gold star to Tim Canova. Let's see. Debra Wasserman Shultz. Obi Linza. Kalita, no notification again. I'm sorry. Yeah, guys, make sure you hit that bell. So, some people saying that they were being unsubscribed. Other people saying that they didn't get notifications. I do shows all the time, so make sure that the bell is hit so you can see when I come up. I usually definitely do a show around 5 o'clock, between 5 and 6, but I usually do show all throughout the day, so definitely keep an eye, or definitely hit the notification bell. So Jamal, how do you reconcile with Sanders declining to support Canova in his second run against Debra Wasserman Shultz, Brianna Wilson? I don't reconcile it. I support Canova. I don't understand why Sanders does it, but I support Canova. I think he's decent. And I love the fact that he's not backing down for this. But it's not something I reconcile because I don't know Sanders' reasons. I don't know Sanders' reasons. I will look it up, though, to figure out why. Maybe because of the cheating thing? I don't know. I mean, Sanders didn't call out the cheating. Canova did. maybe calling out the cheating adversely affects Democrats that Sanders has aligned himself with. I have no idea. I have no idea. What I do know is I like the fighting spirit of saying, I'm not going to just sit back and be cheated. I love that. I love that big time. But I don't know Sanders' reasons. Balthazar 228. Democratic nationalized corruption. Fucking Debra Wasserman Shultz need to pay for her corruption and services to the Clinton industrial complex. And by the way, you said something in the other one. What was it? Geek Squad, more like Spook Squad. Hashtag Fourth Amendment. The thing is, Balthazar, the Fourth Amendment applies to government overreach. It doesn't necessarily apply to corporate overreach. And in this case, we're giving our information, meaning you're giving the computer. Now, yes, I think people should have some kind of rights of privacy, meaning when they're looking at your computer, they're not looking at your computer to hand over the information to the fuzz. But Fourth Amendment is for government. It's not necessarily for private enterprises. It's a loophole. This is a way the government can get around the loophole. All right, I am going to end this. I tried to do a few of these today to get these out the way. I may have one later on tonight, but you probably won't see me for another few hours. So I need to get some work done. Thank you guys for showing up. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone.